Love it. I think it's adorable. It's cute. That's what I
Oh,
say. It's cute.
okay. I'll
It is.
ask him. I see him on Thursday. I'll ask him if he thinks it's cute. I
You know
mean,
what? It's not up
during
to
our,
him. I'm the one
huh?
who thinks I think it's adorable. It's not up to him to know what it is.
Oh,
Me, I
that's
think it's
true. He'll
cute.
just, yeah, he'll throw that back at me too.
Yeah, yeah. He's funny.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Uh,
Or the spiritual teachers who have a sense of humor. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
yeah.
You gotta laugh.
Well, yeah. Jesus has a sense of humor, and he laughs a lot. So, yay. So, hello, everybody. So, we're switching over because I think this is good. I'm really excited about doing the nonviolent communication. And so I have a little program, some PowerPoints and things that I put up that I'm going to play, and we're going to talk about, listening today. So there are nonviolent communication. The first and most important thing about it is learning how to listen. Gloria, please go ahead.
Yeah, just a quick question. Are we going to be following along with the sequence of the book or just then how should we be reading the book? Like does it coincide with your teaching or just read the book?
No, we're not reading a book.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah, no, we're not reading a book. I'm just giving, it's a series of classes that I put together um, for uh, another group that we did,
Perfect. Perfect.
Course in
Thanks.
Miracles in Nonviolent Communication.
Thank
So I just kind of tweaked it, and so,
Thank
so
you, Lenny.
you're welcome. Well, I hope it works out. I hope it's helpful because um, it's even going through this stuff again is real helpful to me. So I have a little a couple of little videos that we're going to watch, and then talk about empathic listening, just ways to learn to listen. So um, I will. Let's see if I can do this like Soma does. But all right. And we find the right thing. Hello. There we go. All right. ACIM and NVC, nonviolent communication, joining in true empathy. So that's what we're going to be talking. We're not going to be going right into true empathy right now, according to A Course in Miracles, because this is we will actually do that at some point. But right now, we're just going to be talking about nonviolent communication and how it works. And how many of us have you all heard of or been involved in nonviolent communication at all? Anybody here had any classes or training in it?
No.
Good. Blank slate then. So it is good. A lot of Unity churches and stuff do NBC, so that's why I just wondered. Okay, um, so from A Course in Miracles, listening to the voice for God, Jesus tells us it's quite possible to listen to God's voice all through the day without interrupting your regular activities in any way. The part of your mind in which truth abides is in constant communication with God, whether you are aware of it or not. It's the other part of your mind that functions in the world and obeys the world's laws. It is this part that is constantly distracted, disorganized, and highly uncertain. The part that is listening to the voice for God is calm, always at rest, and wholly certain. It is really the only part there is. The other part is a wild illusion, frantic and distraught, but without reality of any kind. Try today not to listen to it. Try to identify with the part of your mind where stillness and peace reign forever. Try to hear God's voice call to you lovingly, reminding you that your Creator has not forgotten His Son. And that's from workbook 49. And the reason that I bring this up when Jesus is talking to us about listening to the voice for God. When we're working or talking with other people, friends, family, enemies, people, anybody, we're being asked to listen only for the voice for God, not to be listening to the ego, the personality, the fears, the stories, none of those things. We're really being asked to listen to the voice for God and to listen to the Christ in our brother. This is one of the most important things that I've learned from A Course in Miracles is that the only true relationship that we have, the holy relationship, is a relationship of the Holy Spirit with the Holy Spirit in me, with the Holy Spirit in you, with the Holy Spirit in everybody. So as Course in Miracles students, we put ourselves in a place where we're asking to hear that voice everywhere. And so when it's being offered to us from everyone around us and we're rejecting it because we don't like it, or we don't like what you're saying, or we don't like the way you look, or we don't like the way you act, or who you vote for, or we are not listening with the Holy Spirit for the Holy Spirit. We're listening for the ego through the ego. And as our only job here is to demonstrate that we're not an ego. And you can't demonstrate you're not an ego if you're always on the side of the ego. So it's learning to listen to God's voice, speaking to me all through the day, in everything and in everyone, and through everything and through everyone. And so it's a different kind of listening, because we're not going to be listening for what you think. We're really going to be listening for what you feel, how we feel. So any thoughts or questions about that? Yeah, Brooklyn.
Namaste, mighty companions. This reminds me of Wayne Dyer. He says, you'll see it when you believe it. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. And that's all we're being asked, is to believe that we are the Son of God and that our brothers are the sons of God. So it's not that even that we just put ourselves in a different category when we choose to practice something called A Course in Miracles. We put ourselves into a category where we are here only to be truly helpful and to represent the Christ. We're not here to be the person and the personality and the whatever. Really, we're just here to join with our brothers in the Christ. So let me see. How do I flip this? I just flipped it a minute ago. Oh, there we go. All right. Oops. Okay. So I have a little video of this little boy. His name is Malachi Paul, and he is this was on The Voice or something in Britain. And it's just something that really moves me. And so I hope that you enjoy it. The quote that we have here says, if you cannot hear the voice for God, it is because you do not choose to listen. That you do listen to the voice of your ego is demonstrated by your attitudes, your feelings, and your behavior. So that's Jesus just telling us, hey, you're listening to the wrong voice. And let me just real quick, I forgot to share the sound here. So let me do this real quick. All right.
Hello,
Hi,
what's your name?
Malachi.
How old are you, Malachi?
I'm 9.
And where are you from?
London.
Okay.
North London.
Who are you with?
I'm with my mum. Yeah, and that's it.
Are you a bit nervous? All right, Malachi. Good luck.
Good luck.
When you're ready. Really cute.
Listen to the sound from deep within. It's only beginning to find release. Oh, the time has come for my dreams to be heard. They will not be pushed aside or turned into your own. Oh, 'cause you won't listen.
Before the break, Malachi Paul took to the stage.
What's your name?
Malachi. I'm with my mum.
One thing I'm worried about today is Malachi getting stage fright. He gets a bit nervous.
Yeah, sometimes I get a bit nervous and get a stage fright.
I remember that mummy's backstage. Imagine me backstage doing, yes, Malachi, go Malachi, yes, Malachi. Think about that in your head. In front of big audiences, I would normally be in front of him. Now he's got to face the music on his own, and that's the one thing that I'm worried about. Not one of the judges will buzz you. We're betting it. Yeah. Hopefully, even if he gets it a little bit shaky in the beginning, that towards the ending of it, he'll just sail through.
If I just stop, I can just look at her and then I'll just carry on singing.
You tell me if you want to sing on it. You tell me. What would you want to do, sweetheart? You want to sing again, yeah? Who wants to sing again? Just relax and enjoy it, Malachi.
Listen to the song here in my heart. A melody I start but can't complete. Listen to the sound from deep within. It's only beginning to find release. Oh, the time has come for my dreams to be heard. They will not be pushed aside or turned into your own. Oh, 'cause you won't listen.
I think he's all right now.
Malachi, it's very, very simple. You are a star. It's a natural, raw talent That's what we're looking for. That was amazing, sweetie.
David.
Yeah, I thought that was a really, really special audition. I agree with Alicia. You're a total star.
Simon.
Well, I've got to tell you, what I like about you, you're brave. You know, you got off to a bad start, you picked yourself up, and people are going to like you a lot.
Okay, let's go. David, yes or no? $1,000,000% yes. Alicia?
100% yes from me. Well done, Malachi.
Absolutely brilliant. Well done, yes.
You've got
4 yeses.
What was it like when you were up there? The whole place got on their feet. The judges were up clapping. You got a standing ovation from everybody. How did that feel?
Felt proud.
Wow. You muted, Lynn.
So yeah, so wasn't that just so sweet?
Oh, thank you for sharing that. That wonderful. Yeah.
And did you notice throughout the thing all the listening that everyone was doing? They were listening, the judges were listening, everybody was listening. And what were they listening to? Were they listening to a little boy singing a good song? They were listening to his heart. And everyone joined together in that little scenario to help that little boy to express himself, to do what it was that he came there to do. And I cry every time I see that, because it's so it just shows how much the heart that's in empathy can share, and the love that can just be there in any situation. Brooklyn, yeah, please go ahead.
Oh my God. This reminds me of, I saw Judy Garland's story at my brother and sister-in-law. They have Netflix, and at the end, she couldn't do it. She was breaking down, and she started singing Over the Rainbow, and everybody got up and sang with her. I forget about it, like, it's so touching. Yeah. Beautiful.
And yeah, it's because we have that connection with each other. We have that connection that is natural, that's innate, that belongs to all of us. And when we don't really listen to each other with that love, that compassion, and that true connection, which is really the Holy Spirit that's connecting in all of us. When we don't listen like that, then we miss so much of the beauty of our lives. And we are unable to actually practice the love and the joining that A Course in Miracles is asking us to do. So a big part of doing nonviolent communication is getting connected with our feelings, and getting connected with the feelings that motivate us to do what we do and don't do. And so we learn to listen to other people's feelings and to one of the videos I'm going to show here is going to talk a little bit about how it really is essential when we're communicating with people to get a knowing of what they're feeling. Because you might guess, or think somebody's feeling a certain way, and they may not be thinking that way at all. And so a big part of the work with nonviolent communication is working with people to know their feelings and to hear their feelings and have them express their feelings. Well, and because we all have the same feelings. Feelings are something that everyone shares. We feel joy, we feel excitement, we feel, there's, and when we worked with Amy with the feelings chart, that was a big part of what we were doing, was looking at how our feelings were connecting us to our thoughts and the way that we were operating. So that's why there's so much work and talk about feelings. I'm going to play a little video of Carl Rogers, who was Bill Thetford's teacher. Believe it or not. Let's see, what did I do here? I want to undo that real quick. Come back here to do this. And also Marshall Rosenberg's teacher. So this is the man, Carl Rogers is the man that really started us in this journey of empathic listening. Let's see, what did I do here? And so we're going to hear the man, Carl Rogers. Is the volume okay was volume okay with that with you guys? Okay. Sure.
Many years ago, I realized how powerful it was to listen to a person. And in recent months, I've been working on a paper trying to take a fresh look at the power of listening, at the power of an empathic way of being. And that's what I want to talk to you about. We should re-examine and re-evaluate that very special way of being with another person, which we call empathic. I believe we tend to give too little importance and consideration to an element which is extremely important in the understanding of personality dynamics and for affecting changes in personality and in behavior. I think it's one of the most delicate and potent tools that we have, and I'm impressed at how rarely we see it in real-life situations in any full-fledged form. I guess I'll start with my somewhat faltering history in relation to this topic. Very early in my work as a therapist, I discovered that simply listening to my client very attentively was an important way of being helpful. So when I was in doubt as to what I should do in some active way, I simply listened. And it seemed surprising to me that such a passive kind of interaction could be so useful. And a little later, a social worker whom I hired, who had had a background of Ronchian training, was really most helpful to me. She helped me to learn that the most effective response, the most effective listening, was where you listened for the feelings and emotions that were behind the words, that were just a little bit concealed, and where you could discern a pattern of feeling behind what was being said. And I think she's the one who first suggested that the best response was to reflect these feelings to the client. And reflect is a word that later made me cringe, But at the time, it really was very helpful to me in my work as a therapist, and I was very grateful to her. I felt I learned a great deal from her, and she learned very little from me. Then came my transition to a full-time university position, where, with the help of students, I was finally able to scrounge the equipment for recording our interviews, a dream I'd had for a number of years. And I just can't exaggerate the excitement of our learnings as we clustered about the machine, which enabled us to listen to ourselves, playing over and over again some puzzling point in the interview at which something clearly went wrong, or focusing on those moments in which there seemed to be a response that helped toward significant forward movement in the interview. I guess I still regard listening to one's recorded interviews as perhaps the very best mode of improving oneself as a helping person. Among many lessons from listening to these recordings, we came to realize that listening to feelings and reflecting them was a vastly complex experience. We discovered that we could pinpoint a therapist response where significant forward movement occurred. We could, where perhaps the client was talking in a vague and desultory fashion, and one therapist response would enable him to really begin to move. And you could also pinpoint the responses where a nice forward-moving process was brought to a dead stop by one particular response. So, in such a context of learning, it became quite natural that we focused upon the content of the therapist response rather than upon the empathic quality of the listening. I no longer particularly apologize for that. It probably was a necessary step in our learning. To this extent, we became very much conscious of the techniques that the counselor or therapist was using. We became really expert in analyzing in minute detail. I can remember sitting around with students and picking apart sentences and particular phrases and words. And we profited a great deal from that very microscopic study of the interview process. I think we gained a great deal from it. But this tendency to focus on the therapist's responses had consequences which appalled me. I was meeting considerable hostility as to my point of view, and that really didn't seem to bother me. But this kind of thing did bother me, because the whole approach came in a few years to be known as a technique. Non-directive therapy, it was said, is the technique of reflecting the client's feelings, period. So then you've taken care of non-directive therapy. Or even worse, an even worse caricature was simply that in non-directive therapy, you just say back the last words that the client said. And really, I was so shocked and appalled by that complete distortion of our approach that for a number of years I said almost nothing about empathic listening. And when I did, it was to stress an empathic attitude with very little comment as to how that attitude might be implemented in the relationship. I just became frightened of the distortion. I preferred to discuss the qualities of positive regard and therapist congruence, which I'd come to hypothesize as being two other conditions that were growth promoting in a relationship. And those concepts were often misunderstood too, but they never came to be caricatured in the same way that the empathic listening was caricatured.
I'm just going to stop that real quick just to point out what he's saying here is that when they first started doing this empathic listening, what they were, they got to where they just made it into like a little, a little technique where, you would say, I'm really feeling sad, and they would say, you're feeling really sad? My I'm really angry about this. Oh, so you're feeling really angry? That's kind of how they would do it. And there's still a lot of people who do it that way. And what he's pointing out is that this is not the way we do it. We don't do it by just repeating back to the person what they just said to us, but by actually, and he's going to get into how you intuit into knowing, getting the person to actually see what their feeling is that they're experiencing. Jack, yeah, go ahead.
Well, it's interesting. When I was listening to Carl, the father of Rogerian psychology, listening to him talk about empathic listening, I was thinking of the Jungians, and then the Jungian, the analyst is the container. The word container is synonymous to the listener or the therapist. And I think of myself when I'm with someone, I'm receiving. I use the word receiving. He's using a term called empathic listening, but I'm the receiver of the story or the emotions, the body language, the words, the voice intonation, the inflection, everything, as the receiver. So I'm using the word container and receiver synonymous to listening, at least especially in the therapeutic environment, a therapist patient. But I think all of this is normal, and all of this is just a natural part of being human and interfacing on an intimate level with another person, whether it's in just a conversation over the phone or whether you're in a therapeutic role-playing position. It should be normal. If a person is present in their own body, and they're fully present, this should be a normal part of being human.
And absolutely, you're correct on that. But what's happened obviously is that we have strayed away from that normal and natural being with each other. That's why we seem so separate. And so this is a way of really recognizing that. I just was talking with my son about how people, it seems like there's a real lack of empathy in the world today, just in general. And it is, I think, because we haven't been told enough how important our feelings really are.
And are you saying that we there's a new normal now that is distracted and not real, and this is a new normal that you're saying society has adapted to?
I would think so. If a guy can walk into a schoolroom and shoot up 15 kids, there's something lacking in empathy in our world, that we haven't gone insane and changed things radically because of it. There's something lacking in empathy in our world. I mean, that's just one radical thing. It's happening all around us, where there is just so much lack of love going on in the world, and it is honestly, I believe, because we have forgotten this very important part of our experience. The only real part of our experience as human is to be connected with each other on a spiritual level.
Say, Lynn, I hear you saying, when you say there's the world is this way, the world is that way, and then you use the first person plural word we. It sounds like you're saying you are of the world. I know for me, I'm in the world, but I'm not.
Excuse me, honey. I don't want to correct you, Jack. But and I want to point out to you that none of us are fully realized as believing and knowing who we are. If you have reached a level where you have no human foibles and no fear in the world or any of that, I appreciate that. That's wonderful, and I appreciate that. I have not reached that level, and I'm not going to deny or pretend that I have. And so, let's talk our reality here, not our wishful thinking. That's my opinion there.
Lynn, I would say I'm powerless over the world around me. I'm powerless over the people around me. I'm powerless over my city, but I'm totally powerful about how I am in the world or of the world, in the world, really. But when you use the word we and you talked about these shootings and all, and then the preposition we or the pronoun we,
okay,
like you're saying, we are this dysfunctional, non-listening, static presence in the world. And I just don't,
and I didn't mean to
powerless
include
over the
you,
way the
so
world is.
I'll just
I'm
say
totally
me.
powerful about how I interface with the world, no matter how it is.
That's absolutely true, Jack. But this is not what we're talking about. Honestly, this is not what we're talking about. I'm not talking about, and I say we, okay, it's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about how I see things that are going on in the world. Whether I have power over it or not, I see it. I see that there is war. I see that there is murder. I see that there is rape. I see that there is child abuse. I see things happening in the world that don't appear to be incongruent or congruent with my belief system and how I see humans, or I see the sons of God. So there's something lacking here in my mind. I won't say we anymore because that would include you, and I don't want to include you in my own thinking. And everyone is free to think the way that they want to about themselves. For me, I think that there could be a lot more helpful work going on in the world if we were able to communicate more empathically with each other. And I'm saying we, sorry to say we, many people except for Jack can learn to speak empathically with each other, and to listen to what each other are saying, with love and with acceptance. So, Brooklyn, please go ahead. And then Sharon. Hi, Sharon.
Namaste, mighty companions. It's all about coming from love. If you're going to be mechanical and, like be in a daydream while you repeat the last words of what someone said, that isn't very loving.
Right.
The simple thing, we can't control what goes on, but we can control our reaction. My brother choose again, you choose the Holy Spirit or you choose the ego. That's the only choice. And when you come from love, which I'm not going to say we, but coming from love, the Holy Spirit is chosen. And we're one mind. And the core is we, which is I am, but there are different ways to get there and stuff, time, whatever. But just it's all about coming from love. Someone once said, if I do this, I don't remember. I forgive myself for my memory, but like if you love someone, you're going to act different than if you don't love them. So it doesn't matter what you do, just do it with love. Okay, that's enough for me.
Thank you, Brooklyn. I love you.
I love you.
Hey, don't worry about your words. I can tell what you're thinking. So, Sharon, please go ahead.
Yeah, I agree with you, Lynn. I mean, now Cliff's sitting with me and he's listening, and he said the world has such a lack of empathy. Now, I don't know, over the years, if I saw it like I do now, because it's never been as polarized. But today I was substituting and I was covering for an emotional support class. And the kids were like 6 years old. So there was only 5. Then I had an assistant teacher in there, and the teacher I subbed for did not leave lessons. And, it turns out that the assistant was doing she really worked so hard in that classroom, but the children had absolutely no regulation. They had, since September, the teacher hasn't taught them structure, something, even though they have this. So this little boy is saying to this other teacher that I taught with, calling her names that you would not eat, you wouldn't even know where he, like BITCH, FUCK. It's like things that you would never think a child could even know that. See, and that's what I think's going on here. Like when I was growing up, yes, my parents did fight, and they had like, kind of like violent tempers when they yelled, but we were still in a different place in history back then. Like, I don't remember anybody going to school that I knew of that would curse, use every word you can't even imagine. He's 6, and the little boy, and they're finding out he might be transgender, and he's as sweet as he can be, but he's also like so confused because the school systems, the way they set it up for these little ones to sit there. Now, they didn't have to sit there because they're in emotional support, so they were able to move out of their chairs. But what I came home with was this world, and the course says it, we're all insane and the world is insane, and then double said we can't change it, but we can address it. And I think Marshall Rosenberg is a genius. Whatever came through him, I'm quite sure he understood that this was illusory just by the, just by even this, this world was illusory, because anybody that is that deep usually does study Carl Rogers or, any of the great thought leaders. So I feel like he gave the world a gift. Now, why can't we get this into the school systems? That's where it needs to be. It doesn't need to be that you study things like they like these kids needed, primary tools just to function. But there's some classes where they're studying things that they'll never use. So they did this, and they only do it, I think, in a couple schools in the country. And I just think it's sad. That's all. Anyway, I agree with you.
Thank you, Sharon, and I appreciate that very much. I mean, you see the impact of it on, I don't care really about, words, kids cursing and such. I think it's just that they've been taught that that's okay, and so it's what we're teaching them, and if in a lot of cases, I think people are not able to really connect with their kids themselves. There's it just seems like there's been like a couple of generations of lack of connection, and maybe it's up because of inundation of TV and movies and music and cell phones and social media and all these different things that have come in some ways come between us, and sometimes some ways connected us too. I mean, it's kind of a two-edged sword there, but something has happened that is keeping people from being able to connect in a geez. Anyway, that was my daughter. Now talk about not connecting. Something has occurred that has broken down connection to the point where you cannot even talk to your next door neighbor, or I mean, there's just so much disconnection in our culture. And I don't want to I don't want to try to analyze why it is. All I want to do is figure out how we can make it better and become more connected. That's why I love doing this nonviolent communication. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks so much, Lynn, for doing this wonderful presentation. And I just wanted to say to what you were speaking of, the ego is always been the ego, the one ego, manifesting its guilt in different ways, seeming ways. However, I think what you're saying is now it's reared its ugly head to such a point that nobody can turn away from the fact that it's calling us to make a different choice. And we can't, here's the word we again. So we won't say we can say when one does this, then that. So we can reference we as when one does. But I think if we recognize that every thought that anyone seemingly in a body has is a judgment, which is separation. We're all in that separated state, listening to that one ego mind, that one carnal mind that is keeping us from the reality that we are. So by witnessing what we seemingly see outside of us is really giving us an opportunity to love, to bless, to change our minds. So that's why we come together here, and we're going to listen to the way Marshall Rosenberg received this guidance and see if we can do a little bit more of eliminating some of the listening to that one fearful voice that anyone seemingly in a body is projecting, because Jesus tells us that the ego thought comes first. Thanks.
Thank you, Gloria. And yeah, I appreciate that very much too. And yeah, that's all I can hope is that, if I can learn to listen better, then it's going to be helpful to me at least and the people around me. So I love that. Brooklyn, please go ahead.
Thank you, everybody. Vigilance for God and His kingdom. Recognize the blessings that are coming to us to help us be there. That's, and this is a blessing. Learning how to communicate love. Anything that vigilance for God and His kingdom. The only way we get there. I hate to, use that word, but is love. And the more we can learn to love, the more things, our vibration gets higher, and that's how we change the world. That's how we change our world. We can't change an outside world. We can only change our world.
Thank you, Brooklyn. I love that. Yep. Jack, please go ahead.
Perception is a choice. So if you choose to see these classrooms and teachers and all in a certain way, you have to take responsibility for that's a choice of a way that you're choosing to perceive there. And remember, let us all remember too, that the world is an illusion. It's not real. Now, if this were a discussion group on how to, handle things in classrooms or how to handle the world differently, but this is actually a Course of Love hour, I think, that we're in right now, which is
No, it's a Course in Miracles and Nonviolent Communication.
Well, we're actually using A Course in Miracles as the content of this particular time slot that we're in. Yes.
Nonviolent communication and A Course in Miracles.
Yes. So what I'm saying for you, Lynn, is if we're really going to be on track, if we want to keep on making the world of illusion real, which it's not, and if people keep on choosing to see the world with all this static noise and nobody's listening to each other, but I don't think that's really the content of this, the purpose of this hour that we're in right now. I think this purpose is for us to focus on ourselves and how we're choosing to see the world from the spirit thought system, not from the ego thought system. I hear the ego thought system in this room with just about everything that's been shared.
Well, Jack, I think you misunderstood the purpose of this room then, because no, we're not here to become bliss ninnies and sit here and think, oh, well, let's just talk about the spirit and let's just talk about, no, we're here to talk about how we deal with the world and how the world is how to work in the world that I appear to be in. And if I wanted to just you know, be in La La Land, I would just be in La La Land and not even bother coming here.
I think what we're really here for is to learn how to deal with ourselves in the world, not how to deal with the world, but how to deal with ourselves in the world.
Yeah, which I think being able to communicate with my brother is a pretty important way of dealing with myself. Glorian, go ahead, and then Sharon.
Yeah, I think the nonviolent communication is looking at the ego framework. And what you were saying, Jack, perception makes projection, which is a mirror, but not a fact. So what we're working on here is looking at what the mirror is showing us so that we can make a different choice and make our response with love. So everything seemingly that we see is a call for love, and our responsibility is to respond with love. So what we're doing here is looking at the dynamics of the ego and how it works and how we can you take it. First of all, we're always only talking to ourselves. How we, one, can make a change for oneself to respond more lovingly. That's what I think we're here to do.
Thank you.
Thank you for that, Glorian. That's beautiful. Sharon, please go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, like, I agree with what you just said, Gloria, and I'm not disagreeing with anybody here either, but I'm saying, like, what Lynn has done. These are tools that help us because we're still when awakening takes place, and as we grow, we're still in a body. So even when somebody would say, well, he's enlightened or whatever, you're still in a body because this dimension is the domain of the ego. So what we're looking at, Holy Spirit, is like the higher self, higher ego, but you're still not where you never left heaven with our creator. This is like a sideshow. So I don't see why you'd want nihilism at all. And just to say, well, there's nothing here, because the tools, like, that I feel like nonviolent communication gives us is an honest assessment of teaching us tools to really listen. Like, listening isn't really coming from the lower ego, because the listener really is the higher self. But to listen as even like, because the lower ego's all the judgments. And Gloria's right, any thought is going to demand it right away. Once you're in thought, you're in separation. So what I love about this is that we want tools to function because you're still in a body, and not to dismiss that, because that's not what Jesus says in the Course. Everything in the Course is basically saying you're love and you want to be love. And yes, I do agree with you, Jack, about the idea that it's always about me. It's my own perception. And yes, I have to have a good relationship with the higher self. Now, the me, Sharon, if I hate her, I'm not getting anywhere. If I hate the ego, you're not going to get anywhere, because the ego is nothing. When we give the ego so much attention and think it's like, ooh, we're just making it more real. And I think what this process and what Lynn's bringing to all of us is tools to give us in the world, because if we're just really the witnesser. You can't just sit there and be a witnesser when you have to go around the world. And anytime you're in a group, Jack, anytime you can't be self-realized, because you wouldn't be here. You could go into maybe being an advanced teacher of God, but when we really have what you're saying, we wouldn't even be in this room, because why would we even need that? So I don't know. I feel like nobody's wrong, but I wanted to bring my own opinion because I think these are important tools. Just like when I was in the 12 steps, you couldn't have a better situation on how to deal with other people through those steps. So, and the Course lends itself to both of, because the Course is a magnificent text, but I always feel like taking it completely literally sometimes can be hurting you more. It's because the honesty that keeps me going, and the authenticity that's coming forward, is by saying I'm sad about this or that, because really it's not black or white. I hope I made myself clear and gentle, because I don't want to be harsh. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. You are very clear and gentle, and I love that. Just bringing up again the feelings, how important it is that we recognize the feelings. And even in the Course of Miracles, Jesus says, do you want to know how you're doing? How do you feel? And it's through your feelings. He talks a lot about feelings in the Course. I don't think people recognize that so much, but he talks a lot about feelings and what they mean and how they affect us, and how we can use them to shift ourselves. So, and we will talk about that in another session when we get into talking about feelings. Jack, please go ahead.
What I'm learning here is that we listen either with the ego thought system or the spirit thought system.
Correct.
Paul Rogers and Glorian and Sharon and Brooklyn and Lynn, you guys are all teaching me that I'm either listening with my ego thought system or with my spirit thought system. And that's where the empathic listening lies. So that the listening is just the same as thinking or talking as far as the way the mind is reacting.
Beautiful. Thank you for that, Jack. I love that.
I
That's
have to say that was perfect, Jack. Perfect.
yeah, yeah. I love that. Thank you. Glorian, please go ahead.
Yeah, I really appreciate that, Jack. I really like that, because the idea is, as we know, as that the real therapist is the higher mind. So we're here to clear out what the feelings are showing us what we think, so that we can let them go and listen with the higher mind, with the Holy Spirit, that higher self, so that then the interpretation can be made, because that's the only real empathic listening, is when we align our mind with the Christ. Otherwise, we're still involved in thinking. Thought involves perception. Thought involves evaluation. So we want to clear that all out, as the Psychotherapy Purpose Practice Process pamphlet tells us, that the only teacher is the Holy Spirit. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Glorian. Thank you, everyone. It's our time is just about up. I want to welcome Carlos. Hello. That's someone who is new to us.
Good afternoon, good evening, everyone. I am having little problems with my technology. So I am like, I don't know if you hear me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we hear you.
So it's actually my one, I think I've been here before, but I think it's one of my first times. I've been a little bit conflicted with the schedule. I'm glad to be here, and I would like to keep coming. And if anyone can send me schedule for tomorrow, the days to follow, I would love to join this group.
Give me your email address and I will forward it right over to you. If you would put email address in the chat.
The chat, yeah, I'm gonna do it right now.
Okay, thank you. So welcome. We're pleased to have you with us.
Good night.
Night, Brooklyn. I love you, sweetheart.
You love us.
Thanks so much. I'm really excited
Thank you
about this.
so
Lynn.
much.
Thank you
I
so
am
much.
too.
And
See you in the
everybody
morning,
here.
everyone.
Bye now.
See you tomorrow.
Absolutely. All right. Bye-bye all.
Bye.